Good morning. Time almost got away that I wanted to start. 4:33, and I've been sitting here again over a half an hour debating on whether I should start at a time that didn't have a double number in it or not, and which double number did I want to use. I don't know why I worry about such things. Anyway, last night I was at another General Assembly meeting, and there's another one tonight in another one of the Occupy groups that I plan to go to. And there's a demonstration this morning in the chambers of the county commissioner's office that I'm leaning toward going to. Although I have lots of things that I need to get done, this Occupy movement needs to be taking some of my time because I think it's a priority. And that's why I'm talking about what I'm going to be talking about today, which is entitled Asserting Our Sovereign Rights. And I wrote this blurb: what we 99% need to do, besides demonstrating and making our voices heard, is to find lawful structures that put the establishment on notice that we are beginning to realize what they are doing, and we do not give our consent. One of the most powerful means to accomplish this is the citizens' grand jury. Hugh Turley wrote, quote, "The grand jury is also known as the People's Panel. Every citizen should know the history and purpose of the grand jury in order to properly protect their fellow man from prosecutorial abuse. When citizens are unaware of their power, they cannot exercise that power to uphold justice." End quote. Here's a link to that, and I give the link. Google Citizens Grand Jury and learn more. I wish to God that I didn't even have to be involved in law matters, because it's such a convoluted system, and it has only become more convoluted in our day and age as the government has established law on top of law on top of law, which deprive people of our sovereign rights. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, because the courts and the government and the corporations and everything else is owned by they're all owned by the same group of people, the international bankers, who operate the system for their own profit and their own empowerment. And they're willing to disempower everyone else in order to accomplish their greedy ends, which is control of the whole world. This is the matrix that we live in. And it's not an easy thing to understand, because it's been made so difficult to understand. However, there are certain things that I used in my lawsuit, and by the way, I have no idea. Right now it looks like even the appeal court is totally disregarding all the legal arguments based on law that I made. They're not holding to their sworn oath of office. They are violating that oath. And under a citizen's grand jury, I want you to understand this about a citizen's grand jury. A citizen's grand jury was created actually going back to the Magna Carta. So it goes back centuries in Great Britain, and it has gone on through the British Commonwealth to spread around the world. And it is an underlying principle that we, the people, need to take advantage of at this point in time. It's perhaps our most powerful means of turning the government around and back to the people. It was created as a buffer between the people and the government, and it actually, if you wanted to put it in a structure, the people are at the top, because the government derives its consent from the people. We've turned it around so that we think the government is at the top, and that's totally erroneous. The government always derives its power from the consent of the governed. Always. It's always been that way. But when the people are ignorant, it's easy for the government to take control of the people, which is what has happened. But it's the people and then the citizens' grand jury, which has the right to indict people in the government for not doing their duty, for not fulfilling their responsibilities to the people. Now that includes virtually every government on earth, with I'm sure there are exceptions, but in the so-called free world, in the so-called first world, it is the case that governments have totally run away with powers that are not theirs, and we the people have ignorantly given our consent by silence. And that's what the 99% has the capability of doing right now in raising our voices, is saying that we're aware. We're aware. We have finally learned that we have the power. We support you, and you need to support us, or otherwise we're going to take you out. And I don't mean that in a violent way. I mean that in a lawful manner. Anyway, in preparation for my appeal, I actually came upon the case of Bond versus the United States, which I made a video, I think it was July the 25th or somewhere around there, toward the end of July, which is my most watched video of the entire year. Over 16, probably approaching 17,000 people by now. And it was 8,000 people the first week and 5,000 more the second week. So in 2 weeks, I had 13,000 views. It's certainly slowed down a lot since then, but it hasn't stopped. It's probably gotten 3,000 to 4,000 more views since it was first put up in July. But anyway, one of the things that I quoted in my appeal from that case, and it's toward the end of what is written. Actually, it's, oh, I don't know, do I have the page number here? Page 10, the way that I've reformatted it, and I don't know if that's the way it's formatted in the actual decision or not, because they put a lot of extra spaces in that I tend to delete. But in any way, one of the things that they said, quote, in that ruling, in the Bond versus the United States ruling, is an offense created by an unconstitutional law the court has held is not a crime. A conviction under such a law is not merely erroneous, but is illegal and void and cannot be a legal cause of imprisonment. If a law is invalid as applied to the criminal defendant's conduct, the defendant is entitled to go free. And a concluding paragraph, that was the third to the last paragraph. The final paragraph is, in short, a law beyond the power of Congress for any reason is no law at all. The validity of Bond's conviction depends upon whether the Constitution permits Congress to enact U.S. Code 229. Her claim that it does not must be considered and decided on its merits. And I also included in my brief, which this is my brief that I'm holding up right here, I quoted other Supreme Court rulings, specifically Marbury versus Madison, in which it is stated, the very essence of civil liberty certainly consists in the right of every individual to claim the protection of the laws whenever he receives an injury. A law repugnant to the Constitution is void. An act of Congress repugnant to the Constitution cannot become a law. The Constitution supersedes all other laws, and the individual's rights shall be liberally enforced in favor of him, the clearly intended and expressly designated beneficiary. And from my most recent submission to the Court of Appeal, I actually included all of the, I said last night at the meeting that there were 21 rights listed, in the original Florida Constitution of 1838 when Florida first became a state, but actually there are 27 of them. And in the 27th one, it says that to guard against transgressions upon the rights of the people, we declare that everything in this article is accepted, that means removed, out of the general powers of government, and shall forever remain inviolate, and that all laws contrary thereto shall be void. Now, people, you need to understand that our constitutions did not give us our rights. As the Declaration of Independence plainly says, these rights were granted by our Creator, and they are unalienable. Unalienable. We cannot be removed from those rights by any power claiming to be government or claiming to make law. This law, as quoted in that thing that I just read, is superior to every other law, and citizens' grand juries must be based upon the common law as described in the Constitution and the Magna Carta and other documents, lawful documents around the world that give people and recognize the rights of people to bring their government into check. The check and balance is the citizens' grand jury. And we can use these documents, these lawful documents, to bring the courts, the judges, the politicians into alignment with what we, the people, want. And what do we want? We want a system that works for everybody. The Constitution and the Magna Carta and these ancient documents, which really aren't that ancient when you consider the total history of the world, going back millions and even perhaps billions of years, they aren't very ancient at all in geological time. However, we have lost sight of them in our modern era, and it's time to regain sight of the power of these decrees that have gone down and been recognized by people that have actually established our government. The idea that the Constitution is a goddamn piece of paper, as the former U.S. President George W. Bush said, just a goddamn piece of paper. It's not. This is the lawful foundation upon which we must stand. And we must know that this is our power. And it's our power and our right to establish citizens' grand juries and to indict our leaders when they fail to uphold their oaths of office. In the United States, every policeman, every judge, every attorney, everyone who holds any political office must take an oath of office, and they are always sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the state constitutions, which are in the Bond versus the United States decision, the state constitution is superior to any laws that are passed. And the states have a sovereign right, and we can use the state constitutions to stand up. And we must establish citizens' grand juries in every county in the United States. And folks, if you're wondering why I'm emphasizing the United States, if the United States can stand on its principles that were established in its foundation, we can turn everything around. If the United States becomes free again, as they like to say we are, it'll change the whole world. It'll have a ripple effect to change the whole world. But we must make our military understand, which many of them do. We must make our police understand. We must address this, which is why I feel it's important for me to probably put an appearance in at the county commissioners meeting this morning. It starts at 9 o'clock, and they're asking us to be there to demonstrate at 8 o'clock, and then sign up to speak at 8:30. And so I don't know how many people are going to show up. Probably not a whole lot. But I feel I'm supposed to be there, and part of me doesn't like that. Part of me would rather sit back because I have a tendency, like you all, to be complacent and let somebody else do it. But I guess I'm the one that has to do it, and there's others that are going to stand up, I'm sure, too. So I'm not the only one, and I don't think I'll be alone. I certainly hope not, because I'll have a whole lot less a whole lot less courage if I'm standing alone than if I'm standing together. And that's the other thing about this 99% movement, this Occupy movement. We must stand together. Now, I looked at some of the headlines, and the government's moving in and kicking people out of Zuccotti Park in New York. I understand they moved in at 1 a.m. last night. Oakland, they've brought 1,000 cops from all over the country to shut down the Occupy Oakland and California movement. There's been other places where they're moving in and using show of force to evict people from their rights. But bear in mind, this is going to have to go to a legal battle, and the citizens' grand jury is the place that we're going to do this. We can bring lawsuits in their courts, but even more important, we need to establish grand juries and let them know that this is the law, and it's their law. I'm not talking about creating some new law. This is in their law books, and they know it. They know it. They may wish to ignore it. They may try to get away with their bullshit. They've been doing that for a long time. But if we, the people, educate ourselves and stand up and let our voices be heard loudly enough, and let the police know, and let the people that they're going to be using to try to police us and to bring us in line to their dictatorial plans, we need to let the people know that you are part of us. We're not enemies. We're on the same team. And it's the real criminals, and I've said this before and I'll keep on saying it, the real criminals are those that are trying to control the whole world. And we mustn't let them get away with it. We must assert and reassert our sovereign rights that were granted to us by our Creator, by nature's God, whatever you want to call that. We have sovereign rights that have been recognized in the past and must be adhered to in our present day and age if we are going to reassert our freedom and reestablish our freedom upon the planet Earth and make it the beautiful jewel that it was intended to be, and bring forth the Renaissance as I have envisioned it and as many others have envisioned it. I leave you with these thoughts. I trust that you'll have a beautiful day. Oh, I did want to say one more thing before closing. I had the note here. This Wednesday, I'm going to be leading a discussion on Occupy Yourself, Change the World here at the Mary Horgan Center in Melbourne, Florida from 7 to 9. It looks like there might be a possibility of it being videotaped. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. We'll see what happens. But in any case, it'll be a group discussion about the spiritual implications of the Occupy movement. What can we do as individuals and in community to make the world work for everyone? That's the thumbnail that I wrote as a blurb for that event. And those of you that are local and wish to come, there are refreshments served, and there is a love donation asked for, but no one is turned away if they don't have any money to donate. But your donations are appreciated. And again, the local people that are able to be there, I invite you to come and join us in discussion. That's all for now. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. Bless you. Thank you.